Welcome to the Rural Empires channel. We believe that personal development is the foundational principle in which you need to build your rural empire.
Yeah, we're just excited to have the opportunity to do this. This is probably our fourth or fifth, live stream trying to do it, but I think we're getting better every time at bouncing ideas off of each other and really just trying to bring things from our life and our daily life, that the problems my dad has, the problems Harrison has, the problems I have, which are all different, and really just to benefit the audience who's watching. And I think that's what our main goal is at the end of the day. So hopefully we can bring some of those problems and solutions out and get some benefit for those watching.
I don't have problems. I have opportunities to make advancement. As we shared a little bit about yesterday and bring back to us today is our challenge with our property that Harrison and I have bought here recently. We closed on it in November, found it in October. It is a property was a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath that we acquired for $135,000. We invested about $18,000 into it, making it a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we're renting it for $3,000 a month. We do include utilities on that. Currently, after we got on the property, we're looking at the property, we see that it's a good size, and I start stepping it off. I'm as accurate as a tape measure. Until somebody checks me, of course. Yeah. I realized that there was enough property there, I believe, to subdivide the property. And so we communicated with the city, if you can call it a city. I mean, having a population of 600 people, maybe we call that a town. And wait, we're in a rural empire channel. This is the rural connection we got going. So it's a city for rural people. Anyways, we subdividing the property. We've had our surveyors go out there. And the city has some square footage requirements to be able to subdivide that property in order to be able to make 2 lots out of it. That way, before we do our refinance, currently I'm got my cash in the property on behalf of our partnership, and we want to refinance that, but we can get the same value having even divided the property up into 2 separate lots, and then we have a separate marketable lot. Not only that, but we could use that as collateral to put down to acquire a modular home or an RV or have another stick-built house put on the property to maximize our income for the property. I did send out an email to the mayor. I didn't get a response yet. As I sent out that email, I very carefully and kindly and brown-nosedly asked.
What did you say?
Well, it would be easier to read it. So our meeting was supposed to be Tuesday night. I sent him an email. I said I wanted to follow up with you. I still haven't been successful as of this morning with an updated survey with corrections. My surveyor said that he would have it to me sooner. I was hoping to get you an updated draft prior to this month's meeting, and due to the nature to me needing to get the refi completed, I am hoping to not have to put this off until next month, as I am absorbing higher interest cost as a result. I wanted to touch base with you and get your thoughts on how I could remain on the agenda in case that I am able to get that draft by the meeting time. I appreciate all your help with this. So he follows up. He says, I understand seemingly easy tasks can become convoluted quickly. No problem. I'll leave you on the agenda for discussion purposes. When you receive the updated survey questions, I'll send them to the planner for his review and recommendations. I followed up. I said, thank you. I'm grateful. Then I responded with, it appears that I will not be prepared for the meeting. With the changes to the survey, I desire to be placed on next month's agenda for your review and hopefully a successful solution. The only other way would be in the form of a variance, and I, by experience, do know the position of Mr. Tom. Now, Mr. Tom is on the advisory council to the mayor, who said that he did not, that the city could grant me a variance in this case because we're missing it by 2 feet. Literally, we're missing it by 2 feet. We have the square footage that is needed to be able to subdivide the property, but the way that the property is designed, the frontage is 2 feet off from being able to meet the setbacks. Now, if you're not familiar with that, bottom line, governments have codes. If you're going to develop a property, you're going to have to meet these, and this will be important You can't, it's not like you just go lackluster and just divide the property and write your own deed up. You have to go through a city council, even if it's a town of 600 people. But everybody's been very nice. We're very grateful for the help that the city has provided to us. We come in, we look a little young, or at least they do. And so I know that out of the outset, and of course I showed up wearing a suit and stuff, and I could tell maybe that might even been a little bit off-putting. I like to dress professional when I'm in that kind of a setting. I want to make sure that I'm sending the right message, that I am here to do business. But at the same time, you want to be able to build a good rapport when you're developing these relationships with those people that are in positions of authority in these communities. And so I strongly suggest acclimating to the environment that you find. So the next time I went with jeans and boots and a nice sport coat. So I shifted down a piece to be ready for that meeting. And so I think that's something to take note of. So, as we talk about the empire's edge, and the point of the channel is to get the edge. We believe there's three sides to a coin. There's the heads, there's the tails, and there's the edge. And the edge is where the money is made. Always doing the extra thing, the one extra thing. It may seem like a little, but when you do that over a compounded amount of time and you implement those little things, you can make big differences. So, as I chase that rabbit, I want to come back to the email. So Mr. Tom, who is the advisor, part of the Economic Development Council that's actually in the big city, but trying to help the little town as it develops with this new automotive plant moving in, they're just trying to make sure that they don't make decisions that could cause them headaches down the road.
Could set precedents.
Yes, set precedents. It's a huge point, which actually that's going to be a word in the email here shortly. So what happens is within a particular city council, as they look at things, you might bring something that's an attractive option to the town, but it may not be currently fitting their codes or ordinances that the city might have. And you have to be able to navigate that because you don't accomplish it and you won't get, that's where that's where the butter is made. So that's where the cream comes in the crop. You want to be able to do that. And so as we're trying to subdivide this property, again, there's square footage requirements that the lot has to be, and then there's setbacks. And so setbacks typically are like 20 or 30 foot in the front, 20 or 30 foot in the back, a square footage size, and then 15 foot on each side. We meet all of those, but then it's where the front of the property is, the front of the house, there has to be 100 foot in width of the property, and ours is 98. And so we can make that happen, but it's going to make the property, so instead of having two straight rectangular lots, it's going to be like this straight rectangular lot, and all of a sudden, just at the very end of the property, there's just going to be this little 2-foot jolt. And so if it was doing fencing or whatever, it's just going to look weird. It's not going to be very attractive. So let me continue the email. All right. So I do understand the position of Mr. Tom that brings forth regarding setting an unfavorable precedent, because what happens is for the city or the mayor, if they grant one variance to one customer or one client or one prospect, it sets a precedent for how they will make decisions going forward. Now this advisor, Mr. Tom, who works for a big city, he's trying to help them be careful not to set the right precedent right out of the gate as they know their town's about to be developed quickly, having this habit of just changing, changing. Well, it's not the 2 feet part. That he alludes that would be okay in the sense that it's just 2 feet. The key is the variance. So the variance is basically it's a catch-all that a city can agree to that allows them to do something different than what their ordinances and covenants say. It's not really about the 2 feet. The precedent is not that they would give up 2 feet. The precedent is that they'll give up anything. So let's just say this. For example, This is good. This is very important, guys. Listen, the reason that I want everybody out there needs to know this, because as you begin to develop your empire, you're gonna run into challenges like this, and you need to know what's going on behind the veil with the council, with the alderman of the city, with the code inspector, and such as that. So the mayor is the lead of that council, right? And so if you have a group of commercial properties and then somebody wants to stick a residential property there, that is against the ordinance and the covenants. But they can grant a variance to allow it. But it just as soon as they do that, 1 year, 2 years down the road, Johnny number 2 comes and they say, well, we want to put our property right here. And then the neighbors, so the way that process works is they typically have to post for neighboring people to come and look. If the city's even willing, they've got to post that out there for the city and the constituents of the city, the citizens of the city, to come and make verbal complaints or agreements with that process. Where the pressure comes, though, is when they say yes to one and no to another. Well, why did you grant a variance to them? You see what happens? Like, why did you give them an exception to the rule? It's not like the next person's going to come and ask for 2 foot. The next person's just going to come ask for something different.
You know, that's why I'm here ultimately working with Josh and Adam as well, is because Josh, he's been doing this for so long that it's like, and he's had to do this over and over again. You know, yeah, I could have bought the property on my own, but again, I would have had no idea about any of this, about even when it comes down to the relationships. Yeah, I understand communication really well, but, you know, maybe what I don't understand is when you were up there sitting at the city council's table, like having that talk, like just being able to sit there and be able to, you know, listen really well without having to think, oh, this is what I'm going to say next.
No, that's a great point. So let me... just to give a clarity of I'm going to read the entire email, and then we'll bring clarity to exactly where we're diving in. Yeah. Okay. So it appears that I will not be prepared for the meeting with the changes to the survey. Now, the change that we're talking about is given that jag of 2 foot. I desire to be placed on next month's agenda for the review and hopefully a successful solution. The only other way would be in the form of a variance, and I, by experience, do understand the position that Mr. Tom brings forth regarding setting an unfavorable precedent, how that the city will handle future requests that may be a little more sticky. I respect that position. However, if you believe that it would not be too much of a hindrance, I would be very appreciative, not having to make these lots look as weird shapes and as an unconventional property line, which will be confusing to the aesthetic of the fencing, as well as adjusting the property to meet the minimum requirements that we are missing by the 2 feet. As always, thank you very much for your consideration of our case. Best regards. So what I'm doing is I'm setting the tone that I very much respect the authority and the principle behind what Mr. Tom is saying when he's advising the council to be cautious to grant someone a variance, because you could set a precedent. Everyone at that table was ready to approve what I had already submitted, except for that 2 feet which fell out, which means the only solution, there's only 2 solutions available then. The solution is grant a variance, allow it to pass just as it is, which is 2 specific rectangular lots that look nice and orderly, or to meet their qualifications, which will require me to give this jag at the end of a property. So let's do. I can show that. I can show that clearly on the.
Yeah, let me get the board ready to go. Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. So let's make sense of this. I'm going to draw it out so that we can make sense. All right. So, oh, that's brilliant.
I mean, that looks like our lot.
Lot 1, Lot 2. Okay. So, Lot 1 is where our current house is, although it's located in the middle. It's located right here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to back that up. Okay, well, shoot. Okay. So the house sits right here. A setback. So there's got to be 30-foot setback in the front and 30-foot setback in the back. Now, these are property lines, and not always. Typically, if this is the front of the house, then the street's running this way. Okay? And typically, you'll have properties back here. However, the way that our property is structured, there's another street right here. Now, this matters because as we go to subdivide this property, what we're trying to do is separate this lot off. The problem is that where the house sits, there has to be 100 feet. So we meet the square footage, so I think it's got to be 15,000 square foot, square foot for each lot. There is. I think this one's like 17,000. I know it looks a little bigger because of my drawing here, but actually this is the smaller lot and the original lot is bigger. So it has like 17,000 feet here and the minimum 15,000 square foot here. And you can see these are nice rectangular lots. Pardon the drawing. All right. Again, street back here and street back here. Where the house sits, you have to have 30 foot in the front and 30 foot in the back from the back edge of the back edge of the house to the property line and 30 foot here. You have to have 15 foot on each side. We meet all of those. Okay? Here's where the problem comes. This property right here, there's at the widest point is 98 feet. And according to their ordinance, at the very bottom, the last thing is there has to be 100 feet from property line to property line where the front edge of the house sits. Now, they don't judge the front edge of the house necessarily by the front door. It's actually either side can be called the front when you have a street on either side. So that's an advantage to us. The problem is at the widest point of this lot is 98 feet. Okay, so what they're going to have to do essentially is cut in 98 feet, 2 foot into this property. So therefore, because this one had plenty, it's got 100 and something feet, but it only has it at one point. And so basically, it's just going to have this weird jag right here, and that's where the challenge comes in. So they can either grant the variance, which allows it to pass through, just like 2 square rectangular lots, or I've got to have my surveyor redo it. They are prepared to approve it here because it's going to meet every law they have, every ordinance they have. But look at that. That's not practical.
That
looks
looks like the variance.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to give the variance would mean to not cause us to do this thing right here. Now, won't that fence look weird? Won't it look weird to, like, say one of the property goes to sell, like, why in the world does the property have this jag? Why does my neighbor's property have this jag right into my property over here?
I have a question. So, I didn't catch necessarily all the setbacks and everything you had to meet, but could you just move the whole property line over 2 feet, or does that mess up your original property line?
Because I've got to meet the 15-foot requirements on the current existing house, and I can't mess with that. The only place that it's wide enough to do that is where it already sits, and then it'll take it out of compliance.
Gotcha.
You
So
see that?
It has to be like a jagged.
So it has to be a jagged fit.
But it has to be on the front side of the house, right?
Well, that's what I was telling you. Because we have 2 road fronts, it's not going to affect us. If it was somebody else's property, it would, because most people don't have 2 road fronts. So we got frontage on both sides. So you can call either side the front.
But we were also trying to be aware that the city, we don't want to mess the city up by putting the front door on the opposite side of the road as well, correct? Because that theoretically, that's what we would have to do in order to make that setup work with the whatever side we chose to do the variance, right? Am I right? Am I onto it or?
So you did hear them correct, but they talked themselves through that solution. You can call either side the front if you have 2 streets. If you had not had 2 streets, okay, then you would have had to face the front door
The opposite way to make
opposite way.
Because we know that the top of the where you have square feet written, that side is actually wide enough. I believe. I think it came out to 108 feet. Correct. And then the other side was 98, which it has to be like all the way up and down
correct.
at 100.
Yes, and therefore that's where it's like doing math. Though I'm not very good at algebra, they just got X that they got supposed to fit. But unlike math, they have it's like getting bonus credit after you didn't get all the answers right. You get this bonus question. If you get that right, it covers. Well, that's what a variance is. Basically, a variance is like that option that a city can utilize to allow it just to go as 2 rectangular lots right here.
They know it's good for the city.
They know it's good for the city, as opposed to this jagged thing right here. All right, now the question so here's what's good. I could just go in there and be Johnny Asshole and try to drive my point home, which is not safe in a small community. It's like not many resources you can turn to. I mean, I do it because it's the right thing, but even if you knew it wasn't about the right thing, you could just go, just press hard. But I plan on doing more investing in that community as time goes by. And so the same way that they're wanting to set a good tone going forward, having not made a variance to just the first person that's come. By the way, this is the first house that's sold in 2 years in that whole town. Okay, which means that they don't have a lot of activity yet, but we know it's coming because there's about to be 30,000 jobs to send on, the largest automobile investment in the history of the world. Okay, and so they're not yet accustomed to big changes in their town. But since they know that they got them coming, that's why they've gotten an economic development council from a bigger city, which is Jackson, of course, to guide them and coach them. It's a nonprofit organization that's coaching them through making their city council decisions that don't put them in a bind in the future. So what happened is, though, they're counseling, they're giving coaching to the town and saying, be careful on the first request, the first developer comes into your town to grant them a variance. You're setting a bad precedent. The danger of you doing that, because what that can afford y'all is lawsuits in the future when the next guy comes in and wants a variance for his and be like, well, you just gave that guy a variance. Why am I different from him? You're mistreating me because you won't give me a variance, but you gave him one. If you violate the rules, not violate, I mean, they have that legal option available.
The last thing they want is in this time of where so many people are coming in trying to develop is them getting sued, the city getting sued or the town getting sued.
Yes.
Something like that.
That's the deal. And so, because of that, what our objective is, me putting their shoes on my feet and walk. That's why you hear the tenor of my email saying, listen, I very much respect the position of the counsel that you're receiving from the gentleman that's coaching them through not just approving a variance going forward. Yeah. I very much respect why he's doing that. He's trying to do that to protect the liability that could be in the future as people continue to develop if they grant the first person that comes by a variance. The other side of the coin is the responsibility is to keep things neat and in order. And I think while and that's why the tone says the precedent regarding the city, how the city will handle future requests that may be a little more sticky. 2 feet's not a big deal, but granting the variance is the big deal. Do you see that? Like, they don't care about the 2 feet.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, and I want to make sure I frame this in the right way. With in this particular case, so what I'm understanding is whenever we show back up next month and we have our variance ourselves done on our
Nope.
no, it's not a variance. Okay, let me make sure
no, it's important that I clean this up.
Okay.
We are moving our survey to have that jag.
I was calling that jag a variance, but that's
not a variance. We're having to do the jag in lieu of a variance.
What would you
they
call?
don't
What would that
grant
be called then? I'm just curious. Like, what would we call that change on our?
just a weird looking lot
Okay. Okay.
that meets all the laws and ordinances that they currently have in place.
Okay. Well, I still have that. Okay. So my question is then, so we're going to present to them our change on our documents. And then we're going to say, hey, look, we have this ability and, we can do this, and it passes, and we're open to doing that. We want to work within the city to be able to help you all. In this particular case, it just might be a better idea, though, to grant the variance. In fact, that we have a way around it so you could tie it to that this is already approved and the only variance we have is because
we're winning. This is exactly what's happening.
Okay.
So this is why, look, experience counts. So what's going on in my head, I need to be able to communicate better even to my own people. Because essentially, yes, what we're having done to our survey is not a variance. It's for them not to have to grant us a variance and meet all of their qualifications. Said more just in appeal. But as you just stated, we're gonna lay the case. Yes, we will meet your laws, your requirements. However, maybe do consider, though we've done the paperwork, we've paid for the cost, we can submit this just like we'll give you the authority to not having to have granted a variance and meet all of your qualifications. But maybe now that we've presented this, you granting us the variance will arm you so that when somebody says, well, you granted them one, yes, however, they were capable of meeting our requirements, but that the trump is we want the most orderly setup. And so we've granted them a variance in lieu of making them adjust their property line, even though they could have met it. It was not going to be to the best benefit from an aesthetic of the city.
Yeah, so essentially they're choosing, or we want them to choose what's best for them,
yes,
and not best for us. Because that's it. That's the key. Is they're not doing it for us; they're doing it for them, and that's the key in the variance.
Yes,
we just got to bring to light why it's the best for them.
That's right. We've got to let them. We're going to put a frame around the focal point being what's best for them is actually granting the variance. But we're not doing that just do it because we need to. We're going to, even though it costs us more money, it's going to cost me probably an extra $800, which is not chump change. But the relationship that I start developing with them is worth tens of thousands of more dollars, assuming I'm going to continue to invest in that community, which I intend to. So what's $800 in the big picture? We're going to get an extra $3,000 a month once we get this thing separated, or we're at least going to have an immediate $25,000 lot value that is going to effectively have been created out of thin air, out of my thought process. And I don't mean that to pat myself on the back, but I reconstructed how that they already have the property to maximize our income so that my empire that's in a rural community grows larger.
It's just so important to keep that in mind. I'm really happy that I have you on our team, because it's just things that we're so far out, and y'all can't see the last stream because we made it private. But we are posting little clips out of it. But like, this is what we've been talking about. I'm really grateful that you spent the time going through and helping me understand that. And
well, no, what's huge is that was happening. Your misunderstanding of what we were trying to accomplish, and you're my partner. So
imagine what was going on in that room. Like when you're trying to
and so
explain
I
it.
need to be able to clarify. Now, what I'm doing is structuring this email with a very reverent tone to both the persons counseling the mayor and the mayor himself. The mayor was fully on board with granting us the variance at the table that day. Everybody was on board. Everybody was ready to vote to approve it. But the council member, the one that's been called to council, like, well, why are we taking this council if we're not going to take its counsel, so to speak, right? And so what I'm wanting to do is give the council, the guy that's counseling, an opportunity to save face. Not that he was losing face, but, it gives him an opportunity to speak up and say, well, now that I see it from this angle, that's correct. Or that's my assumption. My assumption is he's going to say, well, now that's wise. Yes, he has brought the information that we can put in a file. So if somebody challenges why we gave the first Johnny Go Cloud that walked through our town a variance on their first ask, and why we're saying no to something that's more sticky, for instance, they might have a height ordinance on a sign. So signs have height ordinances. Some say they can be 1 story high or 10 feet. Some say 20 feet. Some say 30 foot. Well, in a small community, just sticking this random sign up that covers, and you can't even see the skyline because it covers coming from a small residential. Well, that would violate, and somebody would say, well, I want a variance because I want to put this sign up. I don't know, sell dogs at my house, or I, have my own internet business that I also want to put a sign that markets to the public. So I want to put a 50-foot sign up in my property, and they're going to say, well, that doesn't meet the ordinances. And they're going to say, well, I'd like a variance for that signage. And they're going to say, well, we're just not going to grant that variance. And then they're going to say, but you granted somebody else a variance the first time they came and asked for a variance. And that's what the council member's trying to protect them from, that happening. Yeah. And then the mayor, though, if the way I've presented this case, they can say, yes, but on file we can show you that they could have complied with the current ordinances, but for the trump card, i.e., the fact that it was going to be more orderly with the lots being exact rectangles as opposed to these jagged property lines, which are not aesthetically pleasing if you had to do some kind of fencing or anything like that, we granted them the variance in lieu of having a disorderly property line in our community.
Yeah.
Now
we're building a case for them.
That's exactly right. I'm taking the the challenge or the problem. My son would say, he said, we got a problem. No, they got a problem, and I'm going to tell them it's an opportunity, okay, for an advanced way of thinking. I'm going to share with them, say, listen, you just keep this file. If somebody comes and challenges you about why you gave me a variance, you can say, okay, well, if your sign can meet all the qualifications.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It just gives them ammunition and
gives
protection.
them ammunition so that they can't say, because if they would lose that lawsuit, whoever says, well, yeah, but they granted that guy a variance, they're going to lose that because they're going to go into court and they're going to say, but in the file you'll see they could have met it, but we determined as a council, as a group of aldermen, and with the advice of our council, that this was most appropriate time to grant a variance.
I think the most important thing out of all this is just that y'all aren't going in there and you're like, give me this variance because I want it. And instead, you're letting them figure it out by framing it to them in a different way. It's like you're not telling them what to believe, but you are, whether they know it or not, you're giving them the facts and the evidence to where they can form their own thoughts to where it's going to be the same opinion.
I'm trying to properly persuade and formulate a solution for them that they might see it my way, but for their benefit.
Right. And, another point is if you do go in there and, make this big dramatic situation out of it, yes, it's going to hurt you in the future, but, and I want to be careful when I say this, but we also see, some local governments, they might have a power trip or something that they want to go on, and if you get on their bad side, buddy, you aren't going to get anything approved, or
it's just always going to be an uphill battle.
Right.
Yes, and so that's a huge part of the rural empire model. It's relationships first. So we talk about personal development, and we talk about relationships, and we talk about communication, and we talk about leverage. Mm-hmm. So those are your four cornerstones that we talk about. So personally develop, and there's a lot of things that go into that category. Right. It's business, personal development as well. So just maximizing your skills. But communication, good communication. So we want to communicate to them that we are on their team. We want to be in collaboration with the city council, not against the city council. We want to be alongside the city council, not against, face-to-face against the city council. Moving in a harmonious path towards their success, which we believe will be our success, because our property values are going to be higher the more successful that community is. So we're showing that we have alignment with them and that we're wanting to be a partner, not a party of resistance with them.
And I think something to bring up as well is, we talked about this in a couple of videos ago, and you talked about how it's going to help the city not just from this one property, and not just the city itself in terms of like the aesthetically pleasing. It's also going to add value in terms of taxes and revenue and also keeping Tom. Tom, it would be like you said, they were prepared. The city council seemed like that they were prepared to just approve it, even though Tom, was kind of against it. They were ready to potentially say, yeah, I think it was maybe 75.
I had the legal right, in case you didn't know, I had the legal right to call them to a vote on whether they give me that variance or not. And it seemed like they would have all been, but that puts them in a tough spot, and it puts Tom in a vicarious position, like, man, they've called me, asked for my advice, and the first thing I advise them on, they go against my judgment. Money counts. Money does count, and money's on the line here. Money's on the line. Money for us, money for the town. As you were sharing, there is more tax value in 2 lots than in 1, even though it's the same square footage. Particularly if I put another structure on that, now they can get more taxes out of that. So I don't know what the taxes are, but let's just say it's $200 a year or whatever it is, a 500, it doesn't matter the number, X. Number is X, okay? But you can take the same square footage and get 2X taxes out of the same square footage, which brings massive value to that county, to that city, because now, all right, and now instead of having 600 citizens that can live there based on the current lots, now they can have 602 citizens living there on the same and double the taxes.
Yeah. And
so I know that seems
it seems small.
It seems small, but this is where your empire is built. We call this, when we came on, I was like, what are we talking about here? The empire's edge is gaining the edge. And so I apologize for not conveying already the edge that I was implementing there. And now we're trying to give not only we're utilizing our edge, but now we're trying to frame it in such a way that the city has an edge. So now we're expecting the best results for all parties. And the truth is, if none of it works, it's okay.
Right.
We're in a good position. We bought right. We implemented a strategy well. I mean, we're not going to lose. And we have other strategies that we've got backup of the backup plans. Mm-hmm. We got backup plans and backup of the backup plans, you know.
Yeah. And going, because I mentioned this last time, again, on our last official first stream, about having someone in your corner. Like having somebody who has been there, done that before. Because I've, from the get-go, as soon as you said, hey, I want to partner up with you on this, I want to form this entity together and split everything right down the middle, which I was really pleased and excited about all that. And plus, we've been friends for so long now that I did have that extra trust. And I was like, Josh, just go. Just like go, I haven't been like asking, like I don't need the details in order to win. I don't have to know if I'm a quarterback. I don't have to know what the wide receivers necessarily are talking about in their room, as long as they're at the right spot at the right time and we work together and I trust them. Let's just go win, and that's right. But it's good that we are talking about this because, we might not always be on deals together, because you've got deals that you're doing all the time. I've got deals that I'm working on as well. And so it is good info, and they the people at the table with us get a chance to see that. I'm stating the obvious, but I just feel like it's really important to have somebody on your side. I cannot stress that enough, is having somebody on your team, on your side, that at any moment in time can just take over the game, and help take it over and you win. So that's all I got.
Well, it's amazing how this episode has developed with the name Empire's Edge. It's wonderful that we've been able to give a real life example, not only a past example, but a current active example on deals that we're doing that can be benefit to someone out there in our audience. We want that's your place at the table with us as we continue to develop this community content through the Empire's Edge show, our live streams on the Rural Empires channel, as we help you to develop a lifestyle of freedom through investing in real estate, in business, in rural communities. We want to encourage you to bring those questions. We want to be that resource as we approach our first challenge that we're going to offer in June, and June 4th through the 6th. And we invite you to come participate with us, and we're going to tell you more about how to set your foundation appropriately going into building your rural empire. And if you've already started, you might not have called it empire before, but I want you to think big. You got to think anyway. Why not think big? Yeah. Don't be like in a rocking chair, where you're doing a lot of activity but not getting anywhere. that's not going to be a lot of justification for you. But if you'll come and spend time with us, fellowship with us, develop your skills, develop your thought processes with those who don't have as much experience and those who have experience in so many different areas, not only in business and now in real estate. It's always healthy. It's healthy for me to be able to answer those questions because that thought process is going on my mind, and sometimes I just go to work in my magic, so to speak, and it's hard for me to communicate because my mind's moving so fast at how I'm going to frame my situation appropriately that I get us the ultimate win, get us that edge that we're talking about for the most money. But it's not just the most money for us. See, in order for me to accomplish the most money for us, I've got to be able to obtain the most money for those that are involved with me. And today, that's the city of Stanton. That's the town of Stanton. And I want them to be able to see that I'm not at their table just what can I do for me today, but how can I prosper your lives, your town, your community, that you can get more taxes, be a more aesthetically pleasing place, and accomplish positive growth in your community.
I was listening to Jim Rome yesterday, and you may have to help me with this quote because I don't want to get it wrong, but one of the things he said was, you want to have each other's back. You want to, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Well, his saying was, if you look out for me, well, I'll look out for you. Well, not too long into the time of that saying did he realize that there's going to be times where people fall short and don't have your back necessarily and don't meet up to your expectations. But what he evolved that quote into was, you take care of you for me, and I'll take care of me for you. Yes. And so I think that's a great example and a great quote to go with this, what we're talking about, because at the end of the day, we're trying to help everybody around us, but it's hard to help others when we're not first taking care of ourselves. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
And you mentioned it, or you alluded to it, is with the coin, with the edge. Like, yeah, we're winning, like with those small incremental things that we do every single day, and that's the book, The Slight Edge, is in that way too. But you mentioned this to me, Josh, a while back, and it really resonated with me, and I think about it all the time. And it was whenever you were offering me 50% of the property value, and you were putting all the money up, you were bringing all the experience and your time, and I came to you and I was like, Josh, why in the world would you be giving me, somebody with no experience, like other than us, yeah, we're friends, but this is business, why would you be sacrificing food off of your table potentially for me? And you know what you said? Do you remember? Well, let me tell you what I heard. I heard you said that the reason why I'm going to do that is because it's just like the coin with three sides. If I give away the meat on the heads and the tails, and I just take the edge over and over and over again, you're going to bring me so many coins that I'm going to be overwhelmed with so many coins. And it's also going to take my time. You were like, it's, Harrison, don't get it wrong. Yeah, I love the offering 50%, but you got to remember that it's my time that I value most. It's that. And whenever you said that, I was like, it clicked. I was like, it makes sense. Yeah, you're giving away so much, but in exchange, and it's already happened. I'm like, Josh, I want to do all my deals with you, because of the trust and the relationship, and Adam and I as well as partners. Like, and I want to make sure that it's just said out loud, because it's the truth. It's the truth that no one is talking about. I've never heard of it framed that way until you came to me and told me that. And because I was just, I would go home to Caroline and I was like, baby, I don't understand. Like, why is he willing to give value, so much value to me, And I think that comes down to your faith as well, like in other people, because you do that with everybody. That's just
Well, I do it with
not with everybody. You know
not
what
with
I'm saying, but with the
no,
right
that's
people.
That's a good intersection for me to come in and say, I'm watching the character of a person. What there is deals everywhere. I know it's hard. If you haven't done a deal, you don't know there's deals everywhere. If you don't have any money, you don't realize money's everywhere. If you are having these if you believe it's too hard to build a rural empire, you don't realize how easy it is. And when I say easy, easy is something you can do.
Yeah.
You can build a rural empire. If you're out there and you live in a small town and you think you can't build an empire where you are right now, you're sadly misinformed. Someone has robbed you of your hope, because the reality is you can do it. And when I lived in a storage building 20-something years ago, and actually I grew up in a home where I was given hope that I could do that, but I lost it because of the choices I was making in my life and the people that I was surrounding myself were not people of positive thinking. And when you go on this journey of success, which starts with the first step, and that's going to start with the communication piece of what are you telling yourself and what are you telling other people. And if you're not telling yourself that you can do it, yes, you cannot own 100 houses in your community today. That's not even true. Actually, you can. I don't need you to try to eat that whole elephant today. But you can start building your rule. You can have an empire where you're located. You can do it. You need to be surrounding yourself with better people to do better things for better reasons. And you'll have better things to come that will come to pass. And so thank you for joining us here on the Rural Empires channel, on the Empire's Edge session, the live stream that we're going to bring to you. We hope this is of value to you. We believe it's already valuable to us.
I just hope the audio was good.
Well, my voice sounds fantastic.
Well, I've never had problems with your mic.
Thank you for joining us here at the Rural Empires channel. From Josh Arnold, Adam Arnold, and Harrison Hayes, we say thank you. Please come join us again.